What if your state was quietly spiraling toward collapse and no one was talking about it? As Americans scroll past headlines, distracted by culture wars and election drama, a more insidious crisis is building beneath the surface. From coast to coast, a perfect storm of economic decay, mass migration, natural disasters, and fiscal mismanagement is battering state after state. And the truth? Some may never recover. So, what's really going on behind the scenes? Why are states that once powered the U.S. economy now drowning in debt, fleeing taxpayers, and failing infrastructure? Is your own backyard next? Today, we're diving deep into 10 U.S. states teetering on the edge of disaster. And if you think it's just the usual suspects, you're in for a brutal surprise. Let's count them down. And trust me, what we uncover will shock you. Number 10, Kentucky. Once a proud symbol of blue-collar resilience, Kentucky now stands as a troubling case study in economic stagnation. With much of its industry rooted in aging sectors like coal and traditional manufacturing, the state has failed to keep up with the rapid economic evolution sweeping the nation. Workers are leaving. Investment is drying up. And the opportunities that remain are vanishing fast. What makes Kentucky particularly vulnerable is its inability to attract and retain a competitive workforce. With labor force participation shrinking, the state has been bleeding out young, educated talent to neighboring states. As jobs dry up and wages stagnate, the economy is slipping into a dangerous spiral. Once people leave, especially the skilled and ambitious, they rarely come back. And it gets worse. High poverty rates have placed intense pressure on public services, while state-level indebtedness continues to rise. Public infrastructure projects have stalled or been delayed, and basic government services are now operating under budgetary strain. Kentucky simply doesn't have the fiscal firepower to recover quickly if hit by another shock. The question we have to ask: how much longer can a state survive when its people and its prospects there disappearing by the day? Number 9, New York. Yes, New York. The Empire State is imploding under its own financial weight. For all its glitz and global influence, New York is losing the one thing it needs to survive: its tax base. High-income earners are fleeing in droves, frustrated by soaring taxes, rising crime, and an ever more bloated bureaucracy. The financial engine that once powered America is now coughing black smoke. Much of New York's collapse stems from unsustainable fiscal policies and massive pension liabilities. Years of government overpromising and underdelivering have created a multi-billion-dollar time bomb. Add in the sky-high cost of living, and even lifelong New Yorkers are now packing up and heading south. Infrastructure in major cities like New York City is decaying at a rate that shocks foreign visitors. Subway breakdowns, collapsing bridges, and housing shortages are symptoms of deeper systemic rot. Even with an enormous budget, the state is struggling to maintain even the most basic services without bleeding out more wealth. If this is what collapse looks like in America's richest state, what hope is there for the rest of us?
Number 8.
Alaska. You might think the last frontier is safe, remote, independent, immune from the chaos gripping the rest of the country. But think again, Alaska is in serious trouble. Its economy is dangerously dependent on oil, and when those prices tanked post-2023, the consequences were immediate and brutal. With a small, aging population and few alternative industries, Alaska has found itself boxed in. Budget deficits have exploded as oil revenues evaporated. Emergency cuts to public services have left rural communities dangerously exposed. Even basic healthcare access is under threat in some areas. And the exodus has begun. Younger Alaskans are leaving, chasing opportunity elsewhere, schools are consolidating, small towns are hollowing out, and every year, the state's economy becomes more fragile, more isolated, and more reliant on unpredictable market forces. So here's the real question. Can a state this isolated survive without reinventing its entire economy?
Number 7.
Michigan. Once the beating heart of American industry, Michigan is now a case study in economic trauma. Manufacturing has collapsed, particularly in the auto sector, and though efforts at revitalization are underway, they haven't kept up with the speed of decline. Cities like Detroit remain symbolic battlegrounds between decay and rebirth. Michigan's GDP per capita has stagnated while neighboring states push forward. That economic drag has led to one outcome that is especially damning: outmigration. People are leaving, taxpayers are gone. Whole neighborhoods sit half empty. And with every family that departs, the state loses a little more of its future. The state's public finances are under siege. Infrastructure is aging rapidly, and budget shortfalls have hamstrung maintenance and innovation. Even as Michigan attempts to lure new industrious tech, EVs, biotech, the talent pipeline simply isn't enough to replace what's been lost. Is Michigan headed for a renaissance, or will it become the next Rust Belt casualty? Time is running out.
Number 6.
Puerto Rico. While not a state in the formal sense, Puerto Rico deserves its spot here. Because if there's one U.S. jurisdiction already living through collapse, it's this one: crippling public debt, a mass exodus of residents, skyrocketing living costs. Puerto Rico is on the edge, and for many, the fall has already happened. Billions in debt have left the government paralyzed, unable to invest in meaningful recovery. Schools are closing, hospitals are stretched thin, roads and power grids are failing. And in 2025, even moderate storms continue to knock out entire sections of the island for days. Meanwhile, its most valuable resource, its people, are leaving in record numbers. Young professionals, nurses, and engineers are taking their talents to Florida, Texas, and beyond. The tax base is vanishing, but the bills remain. It's an unsustainable equation. The real tragedy? Puerto Rico could be a Caribbean powerhouse, but instead, it's been left to rot. Is this America's warning sign in plain sight?
Number 5.
West Virginia. Coal country is collapsing. Once a vital energy supplier, West Virginia has been left behind in the shift to renewables and high tech. Entire towns once built on coal and steel now resemble ghost towns. Stores boarded up, schools closing, dreams dying. The unemployment rate has steadily climbed since 2023, particularly in rural areas. Job creation in modern industries has failed to replace the losses. Without serious investment, the economic gap between West Virginia and the rest of the country is growing wider every year. State revenues are drying up, forcing tough decisions on healthcare, education, and infrastructure. With so few economic pillars remaining, the fiscal house of cards is getting harder to hold up. Add in an aging population and a limited tax base, and you get a recipe for long-term fiscal collapse. Why isn't anyone sounding the alarm louder? When a state's core industries collapse, how does it rebuild from nothing? Number 4, Louisiana. Louisiana sits on the front lines of environmental disaster. Year after year, hurricanes, floods, and coastal erosion chew away at its infrastructure, its homes, and its very landmass. But the damage isn't just physical, it's economic too. The state's rainy day funds have been almost completely drained by recovery costs. Each new storm sets the state back years. And with climate risks rising annually, the financial burden is quickly outpacing what Louisiana's already fragile economy can handle. Tourism and oil, the state's two major economic engines, are both under threat. Beaches are eroding, insurance premiums are through the roof, and major businesses are reconsidering their long-term commitments to the region. So we must ask, what happens to a state when nature keeps destroying what little wealth it manages to build? Number 3, California. You read that right. California, the nation's biggest economic engines on this list. Because beneath the tech money and Hollywood glam, something very dark is happening. An out-of-control housing crisis, skyrocketing homelessness, massive budget shortfalls, and a slow-motion collapse that no one wants to admit. New homes are unaffordable for most residents. People are being priced out of entire regions. Businesses are fleeing to more tax-friendly states. Even families earning 6 figures are living paycheck to paycheck. What kind of future is that? Wildfires, droughts, and infrastructure breakdowns have become routine. Emergency spending is now a permanent part of the budget. Meanwhile, public dissatisfaction with governance is exploding, and trust in state institutions is near historic lows. So here's the brutal truth. How long can a state burn the candle at both ends before it just burns out?
Number 5.
Illinois. Decades of corruption, mismanagement, and unsustainable debt have pushed Illinois to the edge. Despite being home to major cities like Chicago, the state's financial condition is among the worst in the nation. Pensions are underfunded, taxes are through the roof, and residents are leaving in record numbers. Property taxes in Illinois are some of the highest in the country, and people are fed up. Businesses are closing, families are relocating, and state leadership has failed time and time again to enact meaningful fiscal reform. The result? A crumbling foundation. Public services are being cut, roads are falling apart, schools are underfunded, and all the while, the state's debt continues to balloon. Every year, more and more of the budget is eaten up by interest payments and unfunded liabilities. Illinois isn't just in trouble, it's running out of options. How do you fix a system this broken without tearing it down completely? Number 1, Florida. Yes, Florida tops the list. And no, it's not because of Disney drama or election noise. Florida is staring down a deadly mix of environmental catastrophe, economic overexposure, and exploding insurance costs that could bring the entire state to its knees. Rising sea levels, record-breaking hurricanes, and a deteriorating coastline are driving property insurance premiums to unfathomable levels. Entire neighborhoods are becoming uninsurable. Without reform, Florida's real estate marketune of its primary economic drivers could implode. Tourism, another lifeline, is increasingly vulnerable. One bad hurricane season could send visitor numbers plummeting, ripping billions from the economy. Meanwhile, rapid population growth is straining infrastructure, healthcare, and emergency response systems to the breaking point. Florida may be booming, but that boom is built on sand. Is this the next great American collapse in real time? These 10 states are more than warning signs, they're the fuse on a national powder keg. And if left unchecked, the collapse of just one could ripple through the entire country. From economic chaos to mass migration, the consequences would be catastrophic. But here's the kicker, this isn't the end, it's the beginning. The cracks are already showing. So the only question left is, how many more will fall? If your state made the list, what are you doing about it? And if it didn't thaw long before it does?